Hi, it's Simon and Aaron with Assets and Arbitrage, and today we have a fantastic guest with us.
Okay, so today we have a guest. It is our eldest son, Shaun. We're going to talk about Brazil, um, the options of living in Brazil, the Bitcoin beach that they have in Brazil. So this is our oldest son, Shaun. He is a foundational Black American enthusiast. He is apparently he's a Steelers fan as well. So shout out to everybody. I know football season started, so we're all happy about that. So let's talk to Shaun. Shaun, tell us more about yourself.
My name is Shaun. I'm 21 years old. I've been studying, like he said, Brazil. I've been learning Portuguese. Um, I'm a captain and assistant coach for the basketball team here with my other little brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. And I am a Steelers fan.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go over. We were talking about the article that we found in, I believe, Bitcoin Magazine.
Mhm.
So, like, we always try to bring you stuff about different places. So they have a Bitcoin beach apparently in Brazil. So it's a social project inspired by El Salvador, which is increasing the adoption of Bitcoin as a form of payment and saving for local businesses and schools in the interior of Brazil. So it was what's the word I'm thinking of?
Like commission?
Commission, okay.
Mhm.
So El Zante region, located about 1 hour from the capital of San Salvador, where that's the initial Bitcoin beach in San Salvador, is who inspired this project. So it's inspired by the adoption of El Salvador. Fernando Motalis created Bitcoin Beach Brazil project. As reported in an interview in Brazilian portal Balatim BTC, the idea emerged on September 7th, which is the date Bitcoin law came into force in El Salvador. So we want to talk about Bitcoin Beach. Is there anything you want to say? I'm gonna read the book definition. Anything you want to say?
Now, I do want to just kind of pop in there
Mhm.
that El Salvador
Mhm.
made Bitcoin into
Legal
tender,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So notice that if you read the article, they're saying that this is a project,
Yes.
meaning it is not legal tender in Brazil. Brazil does have what's considered a hard currency, so I think that's very interesting. You always talk about game theory, but it is not legal tender. So we just want to be able to show that particular difference in this situation because it's a project.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said game theory because Brazil is one of the largest economies, I think top 10 economies in the world.
Really?
So it is the biggest economy in South America. So if Brazil is going to adopt Bitcoin, game theory will play out. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Brazil is in the BRICS nations, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about Brazil,
Russia,
India, China, and South Africa. So that can play out in game theory in those large nations as far as trade goes. So I'm gonna read you one more thing, and then we're gonna let Shaun go in. So I'm gonna read you one more thing. Just we want to give you just a
quick overview of where it is.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to talk about where this actual Brazil beach is. So it's a place called. I'll let Erin. She is. I'll let her go in on that because she has a better.
It looks like Harry Kokora Beach.
In Portuguese, the J is J, so it'll be Jetty.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you the expert.
I assume it's Jericoacoara.
Okay.
I assume it's Jericoacoara Beach.
So so say again. Say it like
Jericoacoara.
So it's a virgin beach hidden behind the dunes of the west coast in Brazil.
Okay.
So it's selected by the Washington Post as one of the top 10 most beautiful beaches in the world. And so We can talk about it, but one of the things you want to remember when you see these different beaches, Bitcoin Beach, El Zante, you see Bitcoin Jungle, Dominical,
Bitcoin Valley.
there's Bitcoin River and
Bitcoin Valley.
Bitcoin Valley. These places are usually smaller places, like they said, a Virgin Beach, places that don't have as much traffic. It's not. Uh, Bitcoin Beach in Rio de Janeiro. So it's a virgin beach. So, that's good. We always going to bring you these different places where Bitcoin is taking hold. It's great to see stuff like that. And like she said, the game theory. So that'll be interesting. So, but let's get into with Shaun. So we want to talk about some different things. He does a lot of research on Brazil. So the first thing I'd like to ask is, what made you get interested in Brazil?
Actually, a couple years ago, I was like 17, and we were thinking about going to Brazil, and that's the first time I heard about it. I thought Brazil was gonna be just like Mexico, but when I started to do research, I seen that it has one of the biggest black populations ever, like outside of Africa. It's one of the biggest black populations ever, bigger than America's. And I heard that the food was good. I heard that the weather is good year round. Right now it's summer in Brazil because of where it is at on the equator. I seen the food's good. I seen all the beaches and things like that. Not just for girls, but sometimes. And
just for girls.
Well, the food was a big thing for me, just because I've never heard anybody. I mean, I heard a lot of people come to Mexico and they say, you'll get sick from the food, but there people are eating off the street, feijão and all these things off the street, like at the beach, and nobody's getting sick or anything. Like, Brazilian steak. Obviously, there's a steakhouse here in Toluca that we go to all the time. My little brother loves. But yeah, food is a big one.
Food. So, but you mentioned women. Is that important if you're going to go to another place as a single young man? Is women important?
Yes. As a single young man with a mother who wants grandchildren, lots of them, is it important?
Yeah, I guess top 3. Weather, I wouldn't go anywhere like cold for women. Or like I heard Russia and stuff, I wouldn't go nowhere for. But weather, food, and women, yeah, I would.
Okay. So you see, and that's important to talk about, because we talk about moving around in different places, and people will have different situations. Like, we're a family, so things like that, as women and men or whatever you try to do, isn't as important to us. But as a single man, it's important. You want to go out here, you want to deal with the women, so that's what the young man wants to do. Can't knock him for that. So what places in Brazil do you look at? I know main places are Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, but what places have you been doing research on?
I've seen, obviously, Sao Paulo is the place I would go. I lived in Mexico City with my mom a couple years ago, like I said, and I like the city. I think it's cool. So I would like to go to Sao Paulo and Rio. Rio's a beach we never lived. We lived everywhere. As a family, we lived everywhere. We lived in the woods. When we lived in Costa Rica, we lived and it was cool. But we never lived by the beach, and I think it'd be cool to live by the beach in Rio. Sao Paulo. A lot of people talk about Fortaleza, which is close to where Jetty's at. And Ceará is in that same state. Fortaleza, Salvador, Bahia. But these are all beach states except for Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is right next to Rio. So if I lived in Sao Paulo, I could just catch a bus and I'll be in Rio. Not too long, like 7 hours, 8 hours. I've also seen up north, but I don't really like Manaus. It's close to Guyana. It's in the state of Amazonas.
Okay.
And that's about it. Rio Grande do Sul. I don't really like. I like Sao Paulo more, and Rio and Salvador, Bahia.
Okay, that's great, because the most populous city is Sao Paulo. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's Rio de Janeiro, but it's a great place. The capital, I believe, is Brasilia, right? Did you Brasilia?
Okay. Federal district.
Yeah, it's federal district. So And one of the things I like about Brazil is that it's a large country, just like Mexico, like the United States. So you get to some of these smaller countries, you don't have a lot of options. But with Brazil, you have a lot of options as a larger country. So we have been talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. How would you see that beneficial if you were to go to Brazil and as a cryptocurrency investor? How would you see that?
If I was to go to Brazil and I was with Bitcoin, I think I would see it as because of the real, the dollar, and I was paying with Bitcoin and Satoshis. I think it would be beneficial just because of the goods and things like that. Like food there is cheap, clothes there is cheap. The only thing that's expensive is like electronics. Like I heard that you can't buy iPhone or PlayStation there for how much it costs in America. It's not the same as extra because of how much it costs to transport. But I think it would be beneficial as far as clothes, food, cost of living like rent and things like that, internet. I think it would be very beneficial for me and for everybody else. I think so.
Okay. Yes, indeed. So, like he said, he mentioned something else I wanted to talk to. You said, was it, no, it was, Salvador?
Yeah, not El Salvador, sorry, Salvador Bahia. I said
Salvador Bahia. So they have a large Black American community up there. I watched a documentary about that, and so that's kind of going to be northern Brazil above Rio. So what do you think about the Black American community up there?
So it's like the expat community.
Yeah, the expat community.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I see a lot of people on a lot of the research I see on YouTube is the expats, Black people. There's a Facebook group and things like that. I think it's cool. They get to show you what is, because I'm not there now, so they get to show you what it's like being there through video and how much things cost, cost of living, the beaches. I just seen a guy, he was with a girl at a beach. I didn't know the beaches looked like I thought Rio had the best beaches, but Salvador don't look that bad. Food, and they show you and they tell you things like they give you like advice like be careful, don't let people like the electricians, like don't just let them bully you and make you pay extra, being gringo is what they call it, no matter if you're black or white, it's gringo. They tell you how much things cost and the real is going down or it's going up, things like that, how much they pay for a plane ticket from Salvador to Rio to Sao Paulo and flying all over. I think it's cool. They give you a lot of advice and tell you to watch out, what to watch out for. I think it's great.
So I noticed that you keep saying food. So I want to ask because food tourism is the thing.
Okay.
Right, where you kind of travel around to discover foods. While we are an FBA family, I am Caribbean, so we do partake in Caribbean food like curry and a few other chow mein, lao mein, a few other West Indian dishes. Are there certain cuisines and stuff there that you're like, oh man, I want to try that?
For me, I just seen them eating on the beach. I think they call it feijão. I think it's Cajun.
Okay.
And it's cheese, bread. He cooks it. They were on the beach in Rio. He cooks it in a little cooker, just walking up the beach, and he's selling it to you like vendors. Okay. A lot of people complain about vendors. There's a lot of vendors in Rio. Yeah. A lot of people are selling things, but I think it's Cajun and obviously Brazilian steak. Everybody talks about it. Okay. Like the meat. A lot of people talk about how they to buy food they weigh it on a scale. We do that here. We was buying chicken, they weigh it on a scale. You just buy it like that. It doesn't cost. They weigh it by kilos and things like that. I would like Brazilian steak. I heard it's cheap.
And then as you're doing your research, we had talked about this briefly in the car earlier, but the apartments, condos, Airbnbs, like as far as the value that you're getting, is it expensive? Is it cheap? Is it kind of the same like Mexico? Is it better? Is it a little bit more expensive, more like American market prices?
It's in Sao Paulo, it's as expensive as Mexico City, but it's less expensive than like Florida, which is where I would have gone. But it's less expensive. Like $800 a month could get you a nice apartment, maybe not nothing too crazy. In Sao Paulo, this is Sao Paulo. Now, Sao Paulo is like the most expensive state in Brazil. Okay. Places like Salvador, I seen there was a place. This guy, he was in Salvador, black dude. He's in the Black expat group. He was showing us on a website called OLX where you can rent a house in Salvador for like $400 a month, but it was empty, so you would have to.
Okay.
This is for people who want to live there, not just to stay for 2 weeks, but people who want to live there, you can rent a house for like $400 a month.
But you got to furnish it.
Yeah, but you have to furnish it, which wouldn't be expensive compared to like Texas or Florida. Probably like $800. All like he showed us where you could buy this same website. You could buy an oven, washing machines.
Oh, they don't even have appliances in the house.
No.
Okay, like in the U.S.
You'd have to furnish it really,
completely.
but it's not expensive. In the same website, you could find like penthouses and things like that. But in different places, it costs different. So Sao Paulo is the most expensive. Rio, less expensive. But you live by the beach, so that apartments by the beach cost more or less. Apartments by the beach might be $800, but it's small. In Salvador, it seems like you get the best bang for your buck. And as far as like being by the beach and getting a nice apartment for the same price.
Okay.
I would like to live in Rio. In Sao Paulo, really, but Rio, just by the beach. And a nice apartment.
Okay.
He's talking to you, Dad.
Okay, so so a question I have is, in your research, people always want to know. We're going to get 2 questions in here real quick. The safety. People always want to know, living abroad, how safe is a place? So how safe is Brazil in your research, the places that you've researched?
From what I've seen in Rio, it seems like there's a lot of robberies.
Okay.
A lot of people walking around with chains on, like women walking around with chains on, men too, walking around with chains on, like gold chains. And they say to watch out for like the teenagers.
Yeah,
It's a group of teenagers and they'll snatch your chain. Don't walk around with your phone in your hand or recording. Somebody snatch your phone. Don't have your phone in your back pocket. They'll snatch your phone, things like that. To watch out for things like that. Don't go. You shouldn't go. They advise you not to go into the favela because you could be robbed, and that is where they live. The teenagers that come on the street, that's where they live, in the favela. They say be careful, things like that. Besides that, I haven't heard any. Besides robberies and going into favela getting robbed, I haven't heard any of any crime anywhere else. In Rio, they say stay in Leblon. That's where it's like safest at. Leblon, Copacabana. There's been robberies and things like that, but besides that, if you just don't walk around with your chain out and your phone out in your hand, you keep it secure, everything, your wallet and everything, you should be safe. I haven't, as far as like in comparison to like Colombia, I haven't heard any scary stories with women like drugging people and robbing them in Brazil. Not like in Colombia. Colombia is a big thing, but in Brazil, I haven't heard any stories like in Rio, and I haven't heard any stories of people getting robbed in Sao Paulo or Salvador or things like that, but you still shouldn't walk around with your chain.
Right. Because I'm sure they have petty crime there, but you're just saying they're a little bit more aggressive.
So what he's talking about, he's saying these are crimes of opportunity, is what I call them, crimes of opportunity. Like you said, phone in your back pocket, your chain and stuff. They're not violent crimes, So, like we talked about before, we talked about the Gini coefficient with the different neighborhoods and the proximity and the violent crimes as opposed to crimes of opportunity. So there's crimes of opportunity. You got to be careful. Your purse, your phone, your laptop, all this stuff. You got to secure it all the time. Another thing we wanted to talk about was what else were we going to talk about?
We talked about the location, and you said that you would prefer to live where?
Sao Paulo and Rio, but Salvador don't sound bad.
But because it's a beach, or is it because of the value that you get for your lifestyle?
In Salvador, it would be for the value I would give for my lifestyle. But in Sao Paulo, it would be for the city life. I like the city life. I think it's cool to live in the city. They say Uber is really cheap there, like $2 for a long Uber ride. Like that would be like $20 or $30 in America. So I think I would rather live in the city, but the beach is big. I would like to live in Rio for the beach, but in Salvador for the bang, for the buck.
Yeah,
Sao Paulo for city life.
Yeah, so what he's saying is he's talking about the arbitrage that we talk about. That is an arbitrage. You can live in the city, and like he just said, get more bang for your buck. You could live in Sao Paulo, Rio. There's a lot of places in Brazil that you can live, and also you can travel around Brazil And that's one of the reasons I like to live in big countries, because you can just travel around the country without having to leave the country, go here or there. But it's a very beautiful country. Another question I wanted to ask you in your research is how are Black people from the United States going to be received there? Are they going to be treated well? Tell me.
From what I've heard, the Black expats who've been in Brazil, they talked about it. Obviously, they're talking about women, so they say the women love Black men. But I haven't heard anybody talk about how people treat Black people different. They say that you are seen as Brazilian until you speak, and they can tell that you're not speaking Portuguese, or you don't speak fluent Portuguese, and você é americano, which is what they say in Portuguese, you're American. They can't tell until you speak. So it seems as though you're regular, you're natural, you're Brazilian until you speak. I think you could blend in. There's no trouble. Don't start none, won't be none. That's how I see it. And that's it.
All right, yeah, you can't blend in with that weak ass Steelers shirt on, but we'll keep it moving.
But I do have a question. So you're saying that the men are well received there. Do you think that as a woman, it would be harder to blend in? If I was a single woman and I wanted to move to Brazil, am I struggling against the whiter Brazilians?
Struggling as how? Like on the street?
Like racially, yeah. Like, is it going to be harder for me to get transactions done? Are people...
I don't think so. I haven't seen any women. I seen one Black woman, but she didn't talk about anything about her race being a problem or anything like that. But she was driving. She wasn't really walking like the people I watched. They walk around.
Okay.
She was driving in her car. She rented a car. She was driving around her car. I don't see how it could be a problem. If the Black men could blend in, I assume that the Black women could blend in as well. On the beach, I mean, in Rio, at least in Rio, on the beaches, all type of colors is very diverse. I mean, I don't see how it could be a problem.
Well, I only ask because in Latin American culture, colorism is a huge issue. And as well as Caribbean culture. Colorism is one of the most detrimental aspects of the way of life. So I know that Brazilians in general, within their culture, do have issues with the white Brazilians and the Black Brazilians. When they did the movie Scarface, everybody came. I'm talking about Cuba. Everybody came from Cuba, but they were all they used Italians to play Cubans. So I'm just kind of showing you just along the metrics. Is it an issue? But you're saying that they absolutely love Black men in Brazil. So
they say Black American men.
Oh, because of the money.
So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about the issues that are in house. I guess you would say
local.
Like if there's a problem, like I do know they tell you to watch out for the Black teenagers when you get robbed, but those are the kids who live in the favelas, and those are the kids who are coming down to the beach. But I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's a real problem.
Okay. So so if we're talking about this, people are gonna want to know. I'm sorry, trying to get in the camera. People are gonna want to know about the technicals as far as visas. And things like that. So are you familiar with the visas from U.S. citizens, how long the visa is, the things that you have to do to get residency? Are you familiar with those?
I'm not familiar with how to get residency. From what I've seen, there's a guy, he was talking about how he had to get his record of his arrest, like what's it called? Your record?
He had like a police record?
Yeah, you had to get your record checked if you've been a felon or anything like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He got married to a Brazilian woman and he moved to Brazil because it's easier to move to Brazil than to move her to America. So he moved there. Mm-hmm. He said he had to get his record checked. He had to get all his documents, his birth certificate, things like that, translated into Portuguese.
Yeah.
It had to be seen by a special woman who translates Portuguese, like an actual translator, not like your wife. It has to be a specific translator. Mm-hmm. You have to go to the federal district to get it checked. Mm-hmm. If anything's off, you got to go back. You got to, I heard it's a long process. Mm-hmm. What I know about visas is that you get a 90-day visa, and you can apply for another 90.
Right.
But you have to go to the federal district. I think they call it the federal. You have to go to the federal to get an extra 90 days.
Yeah, you got to go to the consulate.
Yeah, the consulate. That's what they call it. To get an extra 90 days. Mm-hmm. That's what I do know. But you get a 90-day tourist visa. Some people get the student visa. I don't know how long that is. I haven't seen anybody do it. I've seen them do it in like Mexico, but I've never seen anybody do it in Brazil. But all the people I've seen in visa were tourist visas, 90 days. They get an extra 90 days. And the people who I've seen with residency, they say it took them a long time. It took them 3, 4, 5 months just to get their records shipped and checked, and he had to fly here to there. But yeah, I don't know anything about the residency besides that.
Yeah, I'm not for. I mean, I used to be on top of these kind of things, but before you used to have to go to the consulate to get a visa. Before you traveled to Brazil, it wasn't a visa on arrival like you usually get. And I'm not sure that they don't give visas on arrival. That you have to go to the consulate before you go.
I'm pretty sure you can get your visa on arrival.
Okay.
They opened it up now.
But to get your extra 90, you had to go.
You gotta go back to the consulate.
Yeah, but you remember correctly. When we went to Cuba, Brazil was still kind of closed off to us. Remember, we had shaky relations. So yeah, you had to go to like Atlanta, Georgia or something in order to, because we weren't in Florida at the time. You'd have to go to Georgia to get the visa. And also, for Brazil, you need the jab.
Oh yeah, you need.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. So to go to Brazil, you're gonna need to be vaccinated. So is that something that you are willing to do? Is it something you want to do? Is that something that let us know?
It's not something I want to do, but I do want to go to Brazil, so I guess it's something I have to do to go there. That's new. All the people who went, they didn't have to do that. I just seen it on my birthday, like last year in December 2021. It was like you have to you need proof of vaccination to stay in Brazil. Now, unless you're a resident, then you don't have to. But so people who have residency already, they don't have to get the vaccination. They can just go back. They can fly from where they live in New York and fly back to Brazil, things like that. But yeah, I don't really want to, but I guess I have to if I want to go to Brazil. I assume not every country, but most countries are going to do. Most of the big countries are going to tell you that you need proof of vaccination anyway.
Okay. And I want to give a shout out. I'm sorry I didn't get to do it, to our good brother Youssef Watif. He had a company. He was centered in Sao Paulo. He had a company where he was helping people relocate to Brazil and getting your paperwork and stuff together. And he passed away. But he was a good brother, man. He was out there putting in that good work and helping people kind of, move around the world. Because Brazil it's a great place. I mean, it's a lot going on over there. Like he said earlier, it has the most Africans outside of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So it's a great place. A lot of people, a lot of history. It's a lot going on. You have it's a great place. So I mean, I didn't know that you.
No, I do want to ask this one question.
Yes.
If and when you do travel to Brazil, are you going to trek into the land of your forefathers?
In Africa?
No, your direct forefathers.
Oh, Guyana? I actually thought about that. A lot of people, I thought you were talking about Africa. I was going to say, would you go? If you go to Brazil,
come a little closer.
Yeah, I was thinking about, because Manaus. I mean, a lot of people talk about Manaus. It's a city in Brazil. It's up north. It's right next to Guyana. So I was thinking, like, I could probably go to Guyana. The reason why I wouldn't live in Guyana is just because it's smaller and
the infrastructure.
It seems like Brazil is more. Is the infrastructure of it. I would go to Guyana, yes, but I would probably live in Brazil way longer.
Yeah, no, I just meant visit. Your papa's from there, your grandmother's from there.
I would definitely visit.
Yeah.
But I would live in Brazil. I want to live in Sao Paulo really bad.
And there's a significant, obviously, because they're neighbors, Brazilian population. There's a significant Venezuelan population in Guyana. One of the unspoken things, because I don't know what to call it, is that the Brazilian women give the Guyanese women a run for their money because they're so beautiful. You know what I mean? So yeah, they give them girls a run for their money. But it's a beautiful country, Brazil. Like Costa Rica, you have a lot of lush, rich jungle and agriculture. The food's going to be delicious. The people are beautiful. You have the water, like you said, at the beach. And I do think, the research and stuff you've been doing, tell them a little bit about learning the language.
Yeah, let's learn about the language. Let's learn about the Portuguese.
So we live in Mexico right now. I've been speaking Spanish since we got here in 2017. Portuguese isn't that much. When I first heard it, I thought it was Chinese though. It sounded like Chinese.
Okay.
But
Like
it's not that different from Spanish though. Once like I've been speaking like the other day, I was talking to my coach, and just by speaking to him, I remembered tire, like is the past tense of throw. So I didn't even know. I just thought of that just off of Portuguese.
Okay.
And so I've been speaking Spanish, but using the verbs that are similar, that are used in both languages to speak Spanish. A lot of times I answer people in Portuguese. Mentira is like lie. Mentira is lie in Spanish. So I always say that, and people look at me like I'm crazy. But it's really close to Spanish. It's not that hard once you start to learn. Mm-hmm. It's not that hard to understand. It's really close to French and Spanish. A lot of people say, but I don't think it's that hard. That's the only thing about Brazil, though. A lot of people say is that going to Brazil, a lot of people nobody speaks English. Like you have to learn Portuguese.
So I would say I was just off of that. Most countries in South America are going to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Portuguese is close to Spanish. So you have probably a lot of people in Brazil who speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. Portuguese, you can get that together. Like you said, Guyana, places like that are going to speak English, right?
Just Guyana.
Just Guyana.
Right? So in Suriname,
yep.
It's Dutch. So now, of course, you do have some Guyanese people who live there just because of its proximity. Mm-hmm. But the Dutch, and even when they do speak English, the patois or Creole is a very different patois and Creole. And you're just kind of like for instance, because I'm not to get into history, but because the Dutch, the French, and the English had their plantations in the three Guyanas, British Guyana, French Guyana, Dutch Guyana, which is Suriname. They used to move them around so much that they were able to speak all three languages at one point. Mm-hmm. Even my mother, who's just one generation away from me, she's in her 80s now. Mm-hmm. If we go somewhere and she doesn't have any money, and I say, "Mom, you want to buy this?" She'll say, "Paisa na bas," which is actually in a West Indian Caribbean accent, a Dutch way of saying, "I don't have anything in my basket," meaning I don't have the money for that.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm bringing that up because you just assume when you go to these countries that, oh, I speak Dutch. No, you don't. Right? You don't speak their Dutch. You understand with different colonias and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, it's really, really interesting because, too, in Brazil, they understand Spanish.
But they don't speak it.
But they don't speak it. Mm-hmm. Right? So, they understood what you said. Now, when they respond to you, you're standing there and you're like, huh?
A lot of people recite English songs, like English songs that are in English. They can recite the song, but they don't speak English, which I guess would throw you off if you didn't know. If you heard them sing the song, but they don't know what the words mean or how to speak to.
Oh, really? Yeah. So you're singing the song, you have no idea what you're singing.
All the words.
Cardi B?
Beyonce.
Oh, Beyonce. That's safe, at least. You're singing Cardi B. It's a toss-up.
I seen a girl singing Nicki Minaj before, but.
So I got a question. I don't know. We didn't discuss this earlier. What about Brazil's time zone? Are you familiar with their time zone? Because a lot of people do work and they're working across time zones. So you have to be cognizant of what time zone am I in. As far as like Eastern Standard Time zone in New York City. Like, what time zone is Brazil dealing with?
I know. I think there's different time zones in different states because the country is so big. Mm-hmm. But I know for sure that Rio is an hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Sometimes when the clock turns back, they're 2 hours ahead. Mm-hmm. But they're an hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time from what I've seen most of the time, most of the year round. Okay. Right now it's summer, so I assume they're 1 hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, and that's important because Aaron, you always talk about working across time zones.
Oh my Lord, I work across all three time zones.
It's a headache.
Yeah. And it's 4, but I work across the 3 major time zones. I don't know that anybody does anything on Mountain Time, but our businesses run on Eastern Standard Time. We live in Central Time, and then we also have to do business on Pacific Time for 2 of our businesses. So it's a big deal, right? Because I have to keep multiple devices in that time so that we're not messing up stuff, we're not missing meetings, stuff like that. So we have like multiple cell phones, we have multiple devices, and we just.
There's a guy, he's from Chicago. He basically lives in Brazil. He always says that his name is Dennis Jean-Pierre. Mm-hmm. He lives in Brazil for like 6 months. He's from Chicago, so he's on Central Time. He says 2 hours ahead, and he talked about how it's like the different time zones and how the weather and things like that. Yeah. you can get behind on words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, just by accident. Like,
Yeah.
I looked at the wrong clock. But
Mhm.
with you telling me that Brazil is an hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time, that is actually integral because your father and I on the show, we often talk about the digital nomad. So that is digital nomad friendly because it's just one more hour ahead of Eastern Standard Time. It's not like London or France,
so like
right, where you're 6. It's already in the evening by the time your morning comes up.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like it is very digital nomad friendly. Like you said, the gentleman from the Shy, he works there and he does what he needs to do. That VPN will keep you in that time zone so you don't miss anything.
I think the only bad things I heard about Brazil was regular stuff like not the weather, the Wi-Fi, like the internet is bad sometimes when you're working. So if you're working in the Wi-Fi, and you have to make sure that's one of the big things. Wi-Fi and hot water are the big things you need for your apartment because if you're working, you don't want the electricity might cut out or Wi-Fi is not working that well. I've heard people complain about this, like not having hot water, electricity cutting out, Wi-Fi not being that good. You can't really work how you want to.
We live in Mexico. That's
so that's normal to us. So for me, I was like, oh, it looks normal. Like it's Mexico, but with black people, and the food is better, and the weather is better. Like stuff like that. That's how I see it. I seen a guy. He went from Mexico to Brazil, and he said the food is better. He didn't get sick from the food. He got sick from the food in Mexico City. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe the food's probably better. Weather's better, obviously. Things like that. He said the women look better. I don't know.
Okay.
That was a big
But
thing.
that is true. We've traveled a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico is one of the only places that have the reputation of Montezuma's Revenge. For those of you who are not familiar with Montezuma's Revenge, they're telling you when you go to Mexico, you're going to get a stomach illness. Right? You're going to be sick. You're going to be nauseous and vomiting. You're going to have diarrhea. At some point in your trip, it's going to happen. And I've never heard that in any other country we've traveled
to. In
Brazil,
they call it. I don't think it's Montezuma's Revenge, but if you drink the tap
that's
water,
Mexico.
if you drink the tap water, it's one of those. Like you'll get the revenge of it. Like you'll get sick. If you drink the tap water, you'll get sick. Don't drink the tap water.
Well, that's how it started with Mexico. Like, don't drink the water. But the culture now is if you eat the street food, you're gonna get sick. It's part of the experience. It's not part of the experience.
I get sick every time.
Right? It's not part of the experience.
The food smells good. The food smells good, but you'll get sick.
Yeah.
In Brazil, they say the same, but you shouldn't drink the tap water, but the food won't make you sick or anything like that.
I don't think you should drink tap water. I mean, even in the United States, you see in Jackson, Mississippi, you shouldn't drink tap water anywhere in the world. Period. Period.
So now I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna pivot, as they say. Since you are you like basketball and things like that, what kind of sports and things do they have in Brazil that you can be involved in, or something that you would like to do?
The biggest sport they play is soccer because I mean the Brazilian soccer team is good. I guess Ronaldinho, Neymar, people like that. So but I've seen a lot of people playing basketball. There's I like dunking. I think it's cool. I've seen a lot of Brazilian dunkers who dunk out there. They be dunking. They get paid to dunk. I want to do that. I never seen nobody play football like at the beach. They at the beach, like let's say in Florida, it'll be people throwing the football, but in Rio they kick the soccer ball around to each other like in a circle. So I never seen nobody throw a football. If you did, they're probably American. But they have like an NBA Brazil. There's Brazilian people in the NBA. There's a Brazilian dude who just got drafted to the Warriors. I forgot his name, but he just got drafted to the Warriors. The NBA Brazil talking about him, things like that. So I think they do like basketball. Maybe not football like American football, but they do like basketball. And I've seen a lot of people playing basketball out there. They have I don't know if they have their own league or anything. Not that I know of. I just seen them dunking and they get paid to dunk. So I think that's cool. I would do that.
All right. So what would you need to do in preparation to move to Brazil? What are some of the key things like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and make this move. Besides getting the jab, what are some of the things you need to do in order to prepare for that move?
I personally, a lot of people say you don't need to learn Portuguese, but to live there, I'm going to learn Portuguese before I go. I'm going to try to be as fluent as possible. I don't know how possible it is to be fluent without immersing myself in Brazil, but I would try to get as fluent as possible. I don't think my Portuguese is that good, but I don't use it. I just listen to it and try to read and write it, but I don't really speak it because I'm in Mexico. I'm speaking Spanish. Right. I would learn Portuguese. I would do as much research as far as like cost of living. Like that guy, he showed me that OLX.com where you could go see how much things, the cost of living there, like how much apartments are, things like that. I would do my research on where exactly, like what neighborhood would I exactly live in. This one neighborhood, is this better than this neighborhood? What's the crime in this neighborhood? Things like that. Learn Portuguese, and I think that's it. I would probably visit before I go. Before I move there and live there forever, I'll probably visit, come back, and then say, okay, I will go.
You would do like a business intention trip, scout it out
to see what neighborhood, to really see and immerse myself in the culture and see. Like I seen they have a different. It's Bob's Burgers. I never heard of that. I've seen the show. I never heard of that before. So they have different like restaurants and things like that to go around and see what's there, what's new, what's different. I don't think they drive on the other side of the road, but maybe if they do, I would have to see, try to drive or try to get my license there if I got a residency, things like that. I would just do my research on everything, the culture, crime, neighborhoods, things like that.
Do you, when you just mentioned the crime, would you feel like, do you feel like if you went over there you would be in danger? You feel comfortable, or how do you feel about the crime or the?
We've lived in Mexico. I'm gonna say it like this. We lived in Azcapotzalco, and a lot of people say Azcapotzalco is dangerous. I was like 17 when we would walk around Azcapotzalco. I never seen nothing dangerous. So I mean, I wouldn't feel like scared or worried, but I wouldn't move and live in a dangerous neighborhood just because I'm like, oh, I'm not scared, I'm not worried, and get a big head. But I'm not really worried about danger. Not to say it can't happen, but I wouldn't necessarily say I'm worried. Or, I mean, a lot of people say like, when we play basketball, that is dangerous. The worst we ever seen was a fight. Is basketball though.
You talking about Bicentenario?
Yeah, it's like
it's shaky.
People say, but it's the best park in the city. I don't know what other park people go into. I think it's the best park in the city. A lot of people say different, but
for basketball,
yeah,
right. But it's not.
But it has everything. It has you can go, you can walk around. It's a lake, everything. You could go. There's like down the street. There's like rides. Like I feel like it's the best park in the city. But I'm not really worried about danger. Now I'm not worried about danger when we go to Mexico City and go play basketball or anything like that. But so yeah, I wouldn't be worried. I wouldn't like catch taxis now. I would get Uber or things like that. A lot of people talk about taxis, how they get in a taxi and they could take you down the wrong neighborhood on purpose, so to get you robbed, to set you up basically. So I would use Uber. They say Uber's not expensive, Uber's cheap, so I would just use Uber. Or in Rio, they have like the little bikes. Rio's not that big. Rio's not as big as Sao Paulo, but so Rio, they got the bikes, they got the scooters. That's what we used to do in Mexico City. You could ride the scooter, ride the bike. The cars can't pass, so everybody walks like on Sundays. Like here in Mexico, they do the same thing in downtown. So I wouldn't necessarily be worried. I feel like it's similar to Mexico. And since I've lived in Mexico, I'm not really worried about anything new. A lot of people call it culture shocks. I'm not really worried about anything new.
Oh, it'd be an easier transition.
Yeah, than just like Florida to straight to Brazil would be a culture shock. Like when we moved here, I was like, you can't flush toilet paper down the toilet. Don't drink the tap water. I was drinking tap water in Florida. Probably shouldn't, but don't drink the tap water here at all. Don't eat food off the street, no matter how good it smells, even though it's cheap, things like that. Culture shocks here wouldn't be a culture shock in Brazil when I go.
Don't eat hot dogs at Oxo.
Yeah, don't eat.
Well, so dude, when you go to Brazil, would you rather you want to go alone so that you can flesh out your life, or do you want your whole family to be there so that you could how you used to it's been?
To live, I want to live. I mean, I would want to live on my own, but if my whole family came with me, I wouldn't be worried. I would just still want to live in my own apartment or something like that.
Okay.
Live out. But I wouldn't be worried if my whole family came. Let's say I moved there a year from now and then they came a year after me. I wouldn't be mad or worried. I think it would be the opposite. Like, would you be worried that you moved away from your whole family? And I'm in a whole nother country. Right. I don't know nobody in this country. It'd be the first time I moved to a country and I don't know anybody in that country. Never been here before. Barely speak the language, things like that. Would I be worried about that? Maybe, but I wouldn't be worried if my whole family came with me. I would still want my own apartment, things like that, though. But I wouldn't be worried. Okay. I would rather move alone, though. Yes, I would rather move alone.
Yeah.
If I was to pick one.
Yes, Dad. I want to move alone.
But I wouldn't care if they came. It'd be cool. It'd be just like Mexico, like how we've been to the mountains here in Mexico. Like we travel, we go out. It would just be like that. Like, we could travel, we could go here, like to the in Rio they have the Jesus statue that a lot of people talk about. I forgot what the other one's called. When you get on the big triangle thing where you could go when you fly. You know what I'm saying?
Parasailing.
It's parasailing. A lot of people go parasailing. I would do that, things like that. So I guess doing that with my family, besides doing that alone, would be better. But I would rather move alone if I was to pick.
It's time for you to make your own family. I want some
go.
grandbabies.
There you go.
No, but thank you so much for just sharing. That's a lot of research that you've been doing. I know you've been diligently working on the language. Every now and then when we go out, you bust out the Portuguese on me, and I'm looking at you like, she don't know what you just said. But it's important that when we talk to our audience, we just want to show them the amount of research and preparation that goes into, even if you're not moving there, if you're going to spend a significant amount of time there, there should be a lot of thought that goes into it. Because some people they're not going to do what we did, pack everything up and move their whole family.
And I would argue a lot of those people are the ones who don't know, and they the ones who get targeted for the chain gets snatched, or they losing their phone or their wallet, things like that. You should prepare.
Yes, you should be prepared. Have your head on a swivel. Don't be flashy. But also understand the neighborhood that you're in. Understand, okay, this apartment's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It costs this. This apartment's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It costs that. Am I getting taken advantage of? All of these little nuances.
Yeah, so we kept you probably a little bit long, but we just wanted to chop it up. We talked about the Bitcoin Beach initiative that they have in Brazil. So for all our Bitcoiners, that's a place that you can look into. Brazil, we talked about all these other places: Brazil, Costa Rica, Honduras, where else? Guatemala, El Salvador. So these are the initiatives that you have in Bitcoin. And he's been researching Brazil, so he's a great wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
So if you guys want to know anything else about Brazil, hit us up. Like I say, email us. Comments, let us know.
We'll chop it up with you.
Yeah, we'll chop it up with you. Shit, we might meet you over in Brazil. I might go to Brazil. I don't know. He might talk me into it.
Well, we talked about it, but that's how it started. Do you remember we talked about that for a long time? So he doesn't remember. But a couple years ago, Simon and I were really thinking about getting our teenage boys into a blacker country where they're at least with the women they're actually attracted to. So, but that's an aspect of family building that people don't talk about. Like, we want to be conscientious of that. So that's how Shaun was like, oh, okay, I'm going to look into it. We were looking at Brazil. We were looking at, I think, Puerto Rico. And then Dad said no to Puerto Rico. This is long before Access.
I said DR. You guys said, no, it's too dangerous. The same thing with
the Dominican Republic, yeah. So then it ended up boiling down to Brazil. And that's really when Shaun started. I noticed he started taking up the language and, taking interest in actual areas and research, like really researching it. And he's been doing this now for like 2 years.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like before we came to Mexico, they told me to do the same thing. So I watched videos on there was a black dude. He came to Mexico.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Yeah,
I remember him. Yeah.
So I remember he went to a restaurant, and that was the first time. This is my first video I'm watching. He went to a restaurant and he ordered water. And he drank the water. It came in a glass, not in a bottle.
Boy.
And that's like a rookie mistake here. So he drank the water. And he showed us on video like he was like, "Oh, I'm sick. I don't feel good. I shouldn't drink that water. I don't think it was."
Never drink the water. And always ask for a bottle of water.
So when they said Brazil, I was like, "Oh, Brazil's just gonna be another like Mexico. Like it's just gonna be literally the same as Mexico. It's just a big country." But when I seen it got one of the biggest.
Tell the truth. Say when I seen the women, I was like, "Oh, yeah."
But it got the biggest black population we've ever seen. We've never been to Cancun or Cabo, which is but they're expensive, so I understand why. But Rio's not as expensive. We could just go to Rio, be by the beach, and that's great. And it's it's not that big. We could ride around like we do in Mexico City on our scooters or the bikes that you could get. You could rent, and the Uber's not expensive. It's great. And the food is good.
So I mean,
from what I've heard.
Yeah. So and what I'm gonna tell you is, I don't want to learn a fourth language.
I surely don't.
So
Portuguese is out.
So yeah, so
Surely
if
don't.
we go to there, he's gonna be my
Translator
in the younger ones and be my translator. I did the best I can with
Yeah, but I
Spanish and
agree.
French and all
Mhm.
that, but I don't want to learn a fourth language. I'm tired. I'm getting old.
It
But
could be a lot. It's
yeah.
like learning Spanish again. It's
I
like
don't
learning
want to do
Spanish
that.
again.
I
It's the
don't do
same
that.
thing.
Yeah, but we older, and my brain is tired of translating.
Like
Like
good
really.
morning. Yeah, no, there's a delay. I think that's my biggest problem with Spanish. Like
Mhm.
there's a delay that it takes a second to understand, and that's what I'm trying to.
Mhm.
Fix
You've
with
been using a
Portuguese.
lot of Portuguese here around town, and then you have to backtrack and talk to them in Spanish.
I remember I said mentira, and that means lie, and I was trying to say lie, but they looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
I meant mentira, like I had to say it right because they have different pronunciations. T is like cheat, like it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. It would be hard to learn.
I agree with Dad though. I don't
Yeah,
feel like learning
and
a
like I
language.
said, we even Argentina they speak the Spanish
in Italian,
but it's almost like
I
Italian.
didn't even think about that.
So it's like it's a different way. When you go different places,
the dialect, everything's
stuff.
different.
People
Like we
talk
talked about that earlier.
In
Yeah.
Brazil's so big they have different dialects. Like people talk about it all the time. People pronounce things different. It's like hola gente. Some people say gente. In Brazil, the cariocas, that's what you're called if you're from Rio. They don't pronounce their R's as much. Like it's like how would I say like
But you said real different.
no, reais is plural. Real is one, but reais is plural.
And you're talking about the real, the dollar.
Yeah.
Their dollar.
Their R's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that. Like everybody pronounces stuff different. Everybody like all I know is like Rio is cariocas and Sao Paulo is paulistas. So they're like different dialects. They're different. Not culture. I don't want to say cultures, but they act different. Like they say people from Sao Paulo paulistas are colder. That's what they say.
Like
People
New
from
Yorkers.
Rio, yeah, like they're colder. They're
New
not
Yorkers.
as fun. People from Rio are like partiers. They're loud.
Like California.
They're like Florida. I say like Miami type.
Like Miami. There we go.
They're
That's
having fun
good.
and they're
It's the same
partying.
thing.
They're a lot like extroverts than you would say. Like they're the people from Sao Paulo are like hardworking. They're worried about a career and how much money. And they're colder. Things like that. They dress different than like a real. I mean, it's party. It's Miami versus like New York. Like
Yep.
different.
So I got one last question,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're gonna get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a large part of Brazil that is the jungle. What about the people? What do you call them? They're
Aborigines?
Aborigines, but they haven't been touched.
Contacted. Did you know that the last non-contacted guy of a certain tribe in Brazil recently died? This was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I seen that article.
I didn't see that.
But they're kind of like the people from the Sentinel Islands, if you guys are familiar with the Sentinel Islands.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the as Aaron would call it, the bush?
The bush.
But it's the jungle of
bush.
Brazil. What about that?
I know. It's called the state of Amazonas. I know Manaus is in there. They talk about how Manaus is in like the Amazon. It's not in it, but it's like right there next to the Amazon. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's in the Amazon besides like like the rainforest and the animals that are in there. There's like I heard there's like river dolphins and stuff. Like it's different animals that we've never seen. But in America at least we've never seen in America. But I don't know what's in. I haven't heard of the tribes that haven't been touched. I haven't heard of that. I just seen Manaus. I know Manaus is a city that a lot of people go to, and the people who live there look more Aboriginal.
Mm-hmm.
The people in like Salvador are black, and the people who are more down south are more white. I know that. Like in Manaus, a lot of people are more Aboriginal. They live by the bush. Like right over is the bush, like the rainforest, the Amazon. And I know a lot of people they go in the Amazon rainforest, maybe not deep, but they just go there and get water and stuff like that. But I don't know about any tribes in there.
And you said it's Manaus is right next to Guyana.
Yeah, Manaus is like right under it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now you just said something interesting that you didn't say before, and I know I asked this question, but I'm gonna re-ask it.
Okay.
You said that the black people live where?
From what I heard, in Salvador, in Bahia.
And
Bahia.
then where do the whiter Brazilians live?
Down south, they look more European.
So if you were to move into the southern part, do you feel like you could have receptivity issues? Because it sounds like they're separated.
As a black woman, I don't know.
As a black man?
But as a black man, I don't think so. So. I think it would be the same. I think you'll be treated the same. A lot of people talk about the culture of Brazil, that they're more open and loving, things like that.
But they're still separated.
in-house though. I think that's in-house. So I don't know. I haven't heard anybody speak about them being treated differently or them being looked at differently or gringoed. So the opposite.
That's everywhere.
They look at you the opposite, like, oh, you got money, we're gonna attack, but maybe not like you can't come here because you're black, or like they look at you some type of way because you are. More like American, like they might look at you some type of way because you're American.
You have better status because you're American, but locally they may have some. We got some in-house issues.
Yeah, maybe, but I think it's like, it goes down to how you dress. So I mean, like it comes down to a lot. If you don't have a haircut, then maybe they might look at you some type of way. So maybe it's like little things like that. If you walk around with a lot of people do walk around with flip flops with no socks and stuff like that. Your shirt dingy and stuff. They might look at you some type of way. They might treat you some type of way. But the Americans go there and they trying to be. I don't want to say they're trying to be flashy, but they wear good clothes so people look at them like Americans. Like in Sao Paulo, you would blend in. I guarantee you blend in naturally, especially if you're from like New York. Like this is a big city. It's very diverse. Same thing with Rio. It's pretty diverse. Nobody has complained about them being treated differently because they're black. American, being American, yeah, but not black. And most of the people I watch are black men, so I haven't heard them complain at all.
Well, shoot, this was some pretty good game. We chopped up some good game. We'd like to give you the platform. Do you have any platforms or any social media that you want to put out to the people?
No, my Instagram is t.money__, but besides that, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. I mean, that's a good game. I think we chopped up some good game. Was this a good game today?
It was great. I mean, he kind of resold Brazil back to me. Even though it was our idea first, he kind of resold it back to us.
But I think what helps is the videos. A lot of people talk. That's what really helps because they get to really show you what Brazil looks like. And I've never been there, so I don't know. You won't know until you go. But when they show you, you can see like how much things cost and how things operate. Like you don't have to. There's no price on the food. They weigh all of it. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. A lot of people like the on Sundays in Rio. The cars can't pass. You can ride your bike. It's a workout culture. I heard that too in Rio. It's a workout culture. So a lot of people are working out. Everybody's in shape. Things like that. There's no English. So that I feel like is big. Because if you didn't know that and you go there and you're trying to speak English, you would be, I don't want to say in trouble, but you would stick to Google Translate, which a lot of people do anyway. But they only stay for 2 weeks. But if I was to live there, it's good to know that I should learn Portuguese in order to prepare myself before I move there. But I think it's good. The videos are good. The research it's just it's text. I don't know how old the text is, but the videos show you in real time like how things operate and what things look like in real time.
That's good because you're really well read on the things that your father and I typically look into when we're looking at other countries. So I'm actually.
What do you guys look for?
All of those questions he asked you are things your father and I go through when we're looking at other countries. The crime, are we getting the biggest bang for our buck? If so, where is that? And we have a special term for it. So the official term for it is arbitrage. But also, what do you like? What don't you like? You said, Mom, we've lived all over the world. We've never lived on the beach.
We never lived by the beach.
It never dawned on me that you know what I mean? Like I would never even think about that.
In Costa Rica, we lived like in the bush. So
we lived in the rain.
I remember I had a stick and I made a bow and arrow with a vine and a stick. Like we lived in the bush, but we never lived by the beach. But all of the apartments by the beach wouldn't fit all six of us. It's six of us, so it would be a small living. It wouldn't be as big as even Paraíso. It'd be smaller than that.
Right, that's true. They're not gonna have a big, gigantic house.
Or it'd be expensive.
There on the beach,
like a penthouse.
No, it would have to be a big penthouse.
Like a big penthouse.
Maybe two.
Yeah, it'd be like a big penthouse for it. But it would be expensive.
For you guys to have the space that you're used to.
Yeah.
You guys are used to large houses, large rooms, lots of space. I mean, we went to Toluca, and then we went to Acapulco. When we went to Acapulco, that was a small spot.
It was small.
It's smaller than
it was on the beach, but it's
the couch can't fit all of us, and we all sit, and it's hot.
Right, it was like a love seat couch. It couldn't fit all of us, but it's it's just a vacation house. They weren't.
But the same thing with the city, like we can't all live in the city because we would need like a big.
You need two penthouses
or two different apartments to split up because we couldn't all fit in one apartment.
Just to live in the space you're used to living in. Could we do it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, no,
you're spoiled, and you're used to having your own big room. You kick your brothers out whenever you feel like it. So, yeah, but no, that was some good game.
Yeah, that's a good game. We dropped a good game. We're gonna probably bring him back on more often
Definitely.
to drop more good game. Uh, I mean that's it, right? That's a
That's
good
it.
game, you
We do
know.
want to shout out FDNY. We want to thank FDNY for their service. Today is September 11th.
Yes, indeed.
And September 11th, 2001, we all know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually pregnant with Shaun. Simon and I were active duty Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And we immediately went into a war campaign in which Simon and I served 2 war campaigns. So we want to shout out service members, prior service, active duty, definitely all firefighters, but especially FDNY. Thank you so much for your service.
Yes, indeed. And I do want to say one more thing. It is the, just shout out to my mother. It is her death anniversary, 1 year. So I want to shout out, that, my mom passed. She transitioned 1 year. 1 year ago today, so we want to shout that out. The death anniversary, and but it was a good show, good game.
And we will see you guys again next week.
Right.
Bye.